Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Kayla Simone, and today is part 2 of generational wealth. Part 1, we talked about long-term and short-term goals that you can use today to start working towards generational wealth. We talked about the dire need of just financial freedom in our households and in our community. Now it's time to get this work because we're achieving generational wealth. I've already spoke it out in existence, so now it's gonna come into fruition. So we have to get prepared. I thought it was suiting to bring on a financial expert to drop us some more little gems, get us in the right direction that we need to go while planning our finances. Everyone's gonna have a different method of how they wanna go about achieving their generational wealth, but he is here to give us more things to think about when coming up with our plan. Today joining us, we have Charles Horton. It's actually the exact place that I went after I graduated to get some financial guidance on how to structure my money. So talk about full circle. Now we will be getting some more information from Charles himself today. Yes, we talking knowledge. So get your pen and get your paper, get something to drink, keep your throat moist, but we are getting into achieving generational wealth part 2.
How mama gon' teach you how to save your money when she barely on the boat, got stay afloat money. Blacks always broke cause we don't know money. Spend it before we get it and can never hold money.
Briefly tell us about your financial experience.
Yes, so I've been very fortunate for probably about the last 15 years between corporate finance, also alternative investments, including hedge funds and private equity, and then now currently over a family office, which focuses on all of the opportunities that may impact a family outside of just traditional investments, insurance, and accounting.
All right, thank you. All right, now let's get into these questions. Number 1, what is the process regarding how to accumulate stock?
So accumulating stock is, first of all, a long-term process, and it's something where once someone kind of builds their foundation, and when I talk about someone building a foundation, meaning that they're living below their means, they have a budget, they have an emergency savings in place, which right now probably needs to be at least 6 months, if not closer to a year worth of living expenses. Once they have that in place, now they can start taking some of their additional disposable income and starting to allocate that towards investing in stocks. Now, when it comes to investing in stocks, usually the best way to start doing that is through buying a global diversified fund of certain amounts of dollars. And the reason being is because when you invest in stocks, ultimately you want to be diverse. And so it's one thing to try and buy Apple or to try and buy Amazon or try to buy Nike or whatever your pleasure may be. But if you do that without having more diversification, then you expose yourself to a lot more risk tied to just being in one stock. And so it's a process where ultimately you shall start acquiring until you get to a point where maybe you have $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and then it may make sense to start doing some more types of allocations.
All right. Question 2. What is the best ways to build credit?
While they're in college is when they should try and get their first credit card. When you're at that age, credit card companies understand who you are, and so they know that usually you're not going to have a credit history, which, that's something you want to start building. Discover Card is one card as an example. They seem to do a very good job of providing credit to first-time credit users. But what I also recommend is this. That credit card should be used to try and pay one bill per month, and it's almost an automatic billing, and you almost have automatic paying every month. So whether that's maybe your cell phone or maybe that's you have some subscriptions, whatever it may be, use that credit card just for that. Otherwise, lock it away and do not use it to buy other things that maybe you cannot afford.
So is there like a certain percent that you should use from your credit card limit?
So the key with a credit card limit is hitting on a point about usage or utilization rate. Okay. And the numbers are usually somewhere around, if you have a revolving balance, so in other words, you're not paying it off every month, and that balance exceeds 25 to 35% of your total credit line, then that's something that starts pulling on your credit because they get concerned that you may not be managing your credit in the best way possible. So let's say you have a $1,000 credit limit. If for some reason you can't pay off every month what you're putting on it, then at least try to make it so that utilization rate is less than 30% or less than $300.
Okay. All right. And what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have when it comes to finances?
So I think the first misconception is that it's hard. And are there parts of finance that are difficult? Yes. But we can pick any topic that you want and we can find difficult pieces. And the other thing is that I think people think that people can get rich quick. And, you know, I think if we just use Warren Buffett as a quick example, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but Warren Buffett didn't really the status that he achieved was post the age of 50. Not saying he wasn't doing well when he was younger, but his wealth didn't really skyrocket until he was after 50 years old.
Wow.
And so you've got to use discipline and be patient when you're in your 20s, in your 30s, and in your 40s. And that's going to hopefully set you up so when you're in your 50s and beyond, your great years, you know, retirement, grandkids, etc., and you want to travel, what you've done for 30 years will allow you to be successful for the next 50 years.
It's a journey. I told you.
Yes, it is.
Yes. What are some essential tips when setting up your finances for a business? A lot of entrepreneurs out there trying to tap into that. So what would you advise them?
So the first thing, and people try to keep this separate, but unfortunately, especially in the beginning, they have to come together. When you're setting up your first business, your personal credit is still going to be part of that. Okay. And so ultimately, if you want to, let's say, get a loan for your business, well, you're a business with no type of history, you don't have any other business history to speak to, well, the bank or whomever is lending to you or considering lending to you, they're going to review your personal credit history because most likely they're going to want a personal guarantee against whatever that business credit product may be.
Okay. All right now, personal funds. All right. What are some common mistakes you find when you're advising your clients?
Most people do not have a budget. And I don't care if someone's in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s. Most people do not have a good grasp on their income and their expenses. And where that snowballs for people is you might be in a good place, let's say 2 years ago, but then let's say all of a sudden, you know, you do a vacation. Well, that one vacation in itself, maybe that costs you $500. That in itself that doesn't really hurt you. Let's assume then you start getting subscriptions. You know, you're doing Netflix and Hulu and whatever else, and all of a sudden, you know, that's another $40 to $50 a month, and that was not part of your budget. Before you know it, where before you had more income than expenses, now you might be in a situation where you have more expenses than income, and you have no idea because you're not keeping track of your monthly budget. And so what we advise clients all the time is if they don't have a budget, then we, for the next 45 to 60 days, track every expense you have and then also track your income, and then we'll use that to understand what your budget is currently.
Wow, okay, good. So 45 to 60 days, track your expenses. All right. So in your opinion, what are some challenges African Americans face when achieving generational wealth?
So I think that's kind of a two-pronged question. So the first part of that is first of all, we just have to accumulate wealth as a generation. And, you know, with the history of African Americans, etc., we're really just now, maybe in the last 30 to 40 years, in a position where it could have been my parents or your parents or, you know, current parents like myself. We're really probably only 2 to 3 generations of having the ability, because we have opportunity, to start accumulating assets. So whether that's real estate, whether it's, you know, business ventures, or a combination of all of that, we're just now at that point. And so if we think about what we just discussed as far as building credit, and then we talk about creating businesses, and now we're in this space where we can start doing more for ourselves. And now the question is, how do we start accumulating it? How do we start preserving it? And then what are the best things we need to do to make sure when the Lord does take us away, we're passing on as much as possible to our heirs? And one of the misconceptions is people think, well, when I pass, they'll get my life insurance or what have you. But a lot of times, starting the distribution of that wealth can start 10, 20 years or more before the Lord takes us away.
So that's where financial planning is so important, to just start allocating those streams of income.
Absolutely.
In your opinion, what are your top maybe 2 from each long-term short goal or long-term short-term goals that you would advise anyone that is serious about achieving this generational wealth?
Well, the first one, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but the first one is really living below your means, living below your budgeted income.
Yes.
If you're making $50,000 a year, then you need to live like you're making, you know, $35,000 to $40,000 a year. And yes, does that mean you're maybe sacrificing? There is no question about it. But unfortunately, you know, as we're learning, a lot of people are being exposed right now with this current pandemic across the world, where they're not able to receive the income that they were receiving. And, you know, they didn't have 2 weeks worth of savings, let alone 2, 3, or 6 months worth of savings. And so, and from the short-term perspective, it's get your budget right, understand your expenses, understand your income. The second thing is that if you do have debt, get a plan in place to start paying down that debt. Debt is absolutely crushing to growth opportunities. The way credit cards are set up, the way loans are set up, you know, if you're paying just the minimum, you're literally looking at a 30-plus year pay down window if you're paying just the minimum.
Wow.
And that's something that people need to understand. From the long-term perspective is, once you have your house in order, seek out guidance, seek out, you know, professional advice. Focus on the things that you do well, which is making your money and controlling your expenses, and then allow them to help you now do more. Make that money start working for you that you have had the opportunity to save.
Wow, Charles, thank you so much. Now you have me over here thinking about my plans now. So how often do people need to meet with financial planners once they get to that point?
So I would say that people need to speak to their financial planner at least once a year.
Okay. Thank you again, Charles, for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for watching. You have any last words for the people, Charles?
Use this time to take care of yourself.
Yes.
It's an old, tried and true saying. If you don't take care of yourself, nobody else will. And there's nothing that's more freeing and gratifying than being able to not only take care of yourself, but also being able to help others.
So thank you for joining. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.